Jurors are absent. Will there be further evidence on behalf of the defendant?
There will not, Your Honor. However, we would offer into evidence the various exhibits that we've marked. I think we previously offered all of them. I may not have gotten all of them, but I have a list as I recall they were marked, if we want to match those to your numbers.
Why don't you just hand her the list and see if, why don't you hand it, first, hand it to the DA first, just to see if we're all on the same page. Ms. Hall, do you anticipate rebuttal?
Yes, sir.
How many witnesses?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
No, you can, this is marked.
To reconsideration if there is some objection on behalf of the state. So we can bring this jury in and see where we are. Unless you want to walk through these exhibits one at a time.
I don't, and I think I got all the numbers right. I'm just not 100% sure about that.
Okay.
If I didn't, we'll fix it.
And the numbers aren't what concerns me. I guess if we have an objection to something when we get that list back, my question is, does the defense intend to publish these to the jury?
No, I'm not going to let, you're not going to publish it at this point, are you? I'm not going to let him publish anything until I'm satisfied that you have been heard on any objection you have to any exhibit, okay?
Thank you.
But for the record only, let them be received as listed on the list provided to the clerk. All right, Sheriff Esther to come in, please. All right, back in session. The jurors are all present. Mr. Gaskins, I will inquire of the defendant through counsel if there's further evidence on behalf of the defendant.
Defendant rests, Your Honor.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, upon that evidence, the defendant, Amanda Hayes, has rested her presentation of the evidence in this case. The court will inquire of the state if there will be any rebuttal evidence.
Yes, I will.
All right, you may proceed. Call your first witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the state will call Patricia Bearcat from the stand.
All right, ma'am, come around and be sworn, please. There's a Bible right here. If you'd stop and put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand, please. Thank you.
These honest with testimony you give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you.
Have a seat and scoot up real close to the mic and answer the questions, please. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, would you state your name, please?
Patricia Bearcat.
And Ms. Bearcat, back in 2012, late 2011 and early 2012, were you being held in the Wake County Detention Center on criminal charges?
Yes.
And what were those criminal charges?
Embezzlement and obtaining property by false pretense.
And when were you taken into custody on those charges?
September 27th, 2011.
And at some later point, did you plead guilty?
Yes.
And when was that?
November 8th, 2012.
During the time that you were being held at the Wake County Detention Center, did you come to know Amanda Hayes?
Yes.
And do you recall when it was that you first started speaking with her, came to know her?
We became pretty close, I would say, in May of 2012. I mean, I was there and she was there, but we hung with other people, sat with other people, but in May is when we really connected with each other.
And at that time, I've asked you about the Wake County Detention Center. Where is that? Where is that located?
At the annex downtown on Hammond Street, I think it is.
And you indicated that in around May of 2012, that's when you became close with Amanda Hayes, or started hanging with her, I think you said.
Yes.
Can you describe your relationship? How often would you see her, and what kind of things would you talk to her about?
Well, I would see Amanda every day. I mean, you're in there 24/7 with the same people, the same group of people. I was a trustee there. Amanda was, to me, the only intelligent person in there, if I could say that, you know, we connected.
And you said you were the trustee. What does that mean to be the trustee?
That just, the trustee means you help with, like, the feeding, you help with cleaning up the dorm. You have a little bit more privilege than the regular inmates do.
And you indicated that you would see her every day. How long a time period were you being housed there together that you were having these conversations or seeing her every day?
I came to the annex in November of 2011 and stayed there till, I believe it was July of 2012. Like I said, I was more close with Amanda between May and July.
Okay. And so in July of 2012, were you moved to a different facility?
I was moved back downtown.
And kind of then talking about the time period from May of 2012 until July of 2012, you indicated that you became close with Amanda Hayes and would see her every day.
Yes, ma'am.
During that time, did you have any conversations with her about Laura Ackerson?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you come to obtain information from Amanda Hayes about her relationship with Laura Ackerson?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she speak with you about Laura Ackerson on more than one occasion?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she tell you how she felt about Laura Ackerson?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did she tell you?
That they hated her, that she was a liar.
And when you say they hated her, who was she referring to?
Her and Grant, her husband.
And she indicated that they hated her. Did she tell you why?
They just said that she had told me that Laura didn't care for the kids, that she was only trying to use the boys to extort the money from Grant, that she didn't really love the boys.
And during the time that you spoke with Ms. Hayes, did you have any conversations with her about the boys being little Grant and gentle?
And to what aspect, like?
Okay. In terms of how she felt about them?
Oh, she loved them boys. She loved them like they were her own.
During the course of the conversations that you had with Amanda Hayes, did she talk with you about Grant Hayes, her husband?
Yes, she loved Grant very much.
And did she tell you that she loved him?
Yes.
And
She said she loved him and she missed him.
course of the time that you spoke with Amanda Hayes, did she at some point begin providing you with information about Laura's death?
Yes.
And was that something that she immediately began talking with you about?
No.
Can you describe kind of that process?
We would talk about it every now and then, little bits and pieces she would tell me. Amanda really didn't come out with everything at once. She, I don't know, I'm going to say she had to feel me out, I guess. She had to know that she could trust me. Because, I mean, when you're in jail, there's people that will try to do things to, go against you. And that was never, my intent with Amanda. We were really friends. We really did. And she felt like she could confide in me. And she says the reason she did tell me was to make me feel better being around her and to make her feel better.
And you had initially had said that, or had answered that when you're in jail, you have to be careful that there are people around.
Absolutely.
And what do you mean by that?
There's people in there, and she has said it before, like they would be called snitches, that they would try to use something you tell them to better their case.
And during the course of getting to know Amanda Hayes and speaking with her, did you yourself caution her about sharing information about her case with other people?
I did. I did caution her not to let, when a lady named Sherry came, I told her to be careful what she said to her.
And who were you referring to when you said a lady named Sherry came?
Sherry Robinson, she was a lady who had come there, and she knew Grant and Laura.
Sherry Robinson was another inmate that was there?
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated at some point that you cautioned Amanda about speaking with Sherry Robinson?
Yeah, I just told Amanda, I said, be careful who you say or what you say, especially to Sherry. It's just, I didn't get a good feeling about Sherry. I just felt like I needed to let her know, just watch what you say.
Do you remember the first time that, well, let me ask you something before we leave this. You said that initially Amanda told you that she had shared certain information with you to make you feel better.
It was, I guess, because, everybody, you hear a whole bunch of rumors when you're in there, and I was a little hesitant of Amanda from what other people would say, but yet I was, we grew a bond out. She was actually a friend to me in there.
Do you remember the first time she told you anything about the night that Laura was killed?
Yes.
Where were you when she related that information to you?
We were out in what they would call the rec area at the annex.
And what is that? Is
It's
that
like-
outside?
It's, well, if you want to call it outside, but it's a room that you can go into and the sun would come in and we would lay there and get sun.
And is that an area where you were able to kind of get off to
Yes.
yourselves and not have other people necessarily right there where you were?
Correct, yes.
And on that occasion, do you recall what she told you?
Yes.
And what did she tell you?
About what happened to Laura?
Yes.
Yeah.
What
You-
did she tell you?
She said that they had, that Laura was supposed to bring the boys to the apartment for visitation. They were supposed to meet. And Laura was always late on her behalf of them meeting. So that, this is so much for me. She had said that Grant had told, they had both decided that they were no longer going to bring the kids to Laura, that Laura would have to bring the kids to them. She had said that Grant had told her to tell Laura that Laura needs to come here so they can talk and that she could put the boys in the bedroom.
So Amanda related to you that there had been a conversation between she and Grant Hayes about Grant Hayes not taking the boys to Laura.
About them not taking the boys to Laura anymore because Laura was always late.
And did she indicate to you on this particular evening that Laura, in fact, was running late?
Yes, she was about 3 hours late so far.
And at that point, did Amanda tell you that Grant had told her to tell Laura to come to the apartment?
She said Grant told her to tell Laura to come to the apartment, that he needed to talk to her, and that she could put the boys in the bedroom.
And so when you said she
Meaning Amanda would put the boys in the bedroom. Sorry.
And did Amanda indicate to you what happened once Laura got to the apartment?
Yes.
What did she tell you happened?
She said she was in the room holding Lily in her arms. Laura comes in. Laura had asked her if she could hold Lily. Amanda said no. Now she told me two different things.
The first time that she related this to you, what did she tell you?
She said that she said no, and she turned and she yelled for Grant. Grant and Laura struggled. They knocked into the wall. A chair fell over. Laura was on the floor.
And on that initial time, did Amanda, relate to you that she had yelled out that Laura was going to kidnap Lily?
Yes.
And at that point that she had yelled for Grant?
She yelled for Grant, yes, when Laura came at her.
What did she tell you about what happened after the struggle between Grant and Laura?
She said that Grant was over, they knocked to the floor, that Grant was over Laura, and Grant looked up to her and said that Laura was not moving, and Grant looked up to her and said, she's dead.
And did she indicate to you that she had been standing there the entire time?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she indicate to you that she knew that Laura was dead?
Yes.
What did she tell you she did at that point?
She went to the back bedroom where the boys were. She was supposed to call Shay to come pick up the boys, and she was going to leave with Lily.
Did she indicate anything further to you on that first time that she spoke about that night?
She got more detail the second time she told me.
What do you recall she telling you the second time?
The second time it was more that, Laura had come in, they were all standing in the front entranceway to the apartment.
And when you say they were all standing, who did she indicate was standing?
Amanda was holding Lily, Laura, and Grant. The boys were in the back bedroom.
And what did she tell you happened this time when she related it to you?
She says that again, Laura asked to hold the baby, hold Lily. Amanda said no and went to turn and walk away. And she said either Laura tripped over the rug or Laura hit her in the back of the head, and she motioned back to her neck when she was telling me. And that she yelled for Grant. Grant came, grabbed Laura. They were struggling again into the wall, knocked the chair over. They ended up on the floor. Grant over Laura's body, looked up at Amanda and said, she's dead.
And at that point, in the second telling, did Amanda tell you what she did when Grant told her that Laura was dead?
Amanda just stood there with Lily, and that was it. She was just standing there, and then Amanda went to the back room where the boys were.
The second time that Amanda related the events of that night, the second story that she told you, did she indicate to you that she had freaked out during Laura asking to hold Lily?
She was not going to allow Lily to hold her. She didn't freak out. She just said no, and she was very adamant about, no, you're not going to hold her.
And did she, in the second time that she told you, did she also indicate that that she was present during the struggle?
Yes.
Did she indicate to you that she knew that Laura was dead?
Yes.
What did she tell you in the second time that happened after that?
She said, well, this is when Grant was over the body and looked up her and told her that Laura was dead. And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it didn't make her feel anything. She felt nothing. And then she went back to the boys. That was her concern, to go to the boys.
Did she indicate to you whether or not there was a decision about her leaving the apartment after Laura was dead?
Yes, they made the decision that she was gonna leave with Lily and Shay would come pick up the boys like she was gonna babysit them.
What did she tell you about leaving the apartment?
She said that she called Shay to come and pick up the boys, that Grant, before Shay could get there, Grant would have to move the body, so the boys wouldn't see it. And then Shay came, picked up the boys, and she left with Lily.
Did she indicate to you anything about the decision that was made to dismember or cut up Laura's body?
You know, she did say that once she left, Grant, before they couldn't very well carry Laura's body out, so the only way to get it out would be to cut it up.
And did she talk with you about Grant, any special skills that he had that would allow him to cut up the body?
She said Grant had gone to pre-med and knew how to cut up a body, but it was nothing really elaborating, that he knew how to cut up a body.
Did she indicate what room of the house Laura's body was put in?
No, I just know that Grant had to move the body out of the hall, out of the way so the boys wouldn't be able to see it. She just said Grant had to move the body.
Did she indicate, well, let me ask you this, did, during the course of that, did she indicated that they couldn't move the body out because somebody would see them moving the body out?
Correct. You can't carry a dead body out of somewhere without somebody seeing it.
And she indicated that that's what led them to decide to cut the body up?
Mm-hmm. That would be the only way to get her out of the apartment.
During this conversation and subsequent conversations, did you have an occasion where she basically told you that it was an accident?
Yes.
And what do you recall about that?
Before she even really went into detail with me, she had looked me straight in the face and said it was an accident. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. And then, a few minutes after that, she would be like this to me, and she'd be like, "Do you understand me? It was an accident. It was not supposed to happen like this."
And did you question her about that statement?
I did. I said if it was an accident, then why not call the police 911? She didn't have nothing to say with that.
Did you ask her if it was an accident, why they had not called the police and not called, and why they had to cut up the body?
I said if it was an accident, why cut up the body? I said if it was an accident, why not call 911 when she had left with Lily and Shay was gone with the boys? If it was an accident, why not call 911 and she wouldn't be sitting in here away from her child?
And what was her response?
She said that was Grant was the one who was supposed to call the police. And that she loved her husband.
When you questioned her about those things and asked her, why didn't she call the police? Why did they cut up the body if it was an accident? What was her demeanor back to you?
She was very, she loved Grant, and she felt like she was doing the right thing, I guess, by standing by him. But then she would get very agitated with it, that she wouldn't want to talk about it anymore.
Do you remember an occasion where she made a statement to you about if it was an accident that they couldn't convict her of murder?
She said if it was an accident, then they couldn't convict her of murder, yes.
And what was her demeanor and expression when she said that?
She was sort of sarcastic with it, sort of.
Did she smile?
She smiled.
Did you have any discussions with Amanda Hayes about the cause of death and whether anybody would be able to figure out how Laura died?
Yes, Amanda told me that they would never really know what the actual cause of death was with her, and she sort of smiled with that. nobody would be able to tell what really happened.
I'm sorry.
She said nobody would be able to really tell what happened.
And did she tell you why, that no one will be able to tell?
No, she never elaborated. She just made the statement.
During the course of having these discussions with Amanda, did she discuss with you Shay and her feelings towards Shay as a result of her actions?
Yeah, she was glad that Shay was sent away because she did say that Shay would probably think this was all premeditated, but she wanted Shay away from it all.
And did she indicate to you a knowledge that Shay had cooperated with the police?
Yes, she had said that Shay was the one who handed over a broomstick rider, and that Shay had directed the police back to the apartment to find some sort of letter that was written.
And did she indicate to you what broomstick rider was?
It was the song Grant wrote.
Did you question Amanda Hayes, or did she provide further information about what they had done with Laura Ackerson's body? Did you have any information about her going to Texas?
I knew they went to Texas. She said Grant was the one who suggested they go to Texas and where her sister lived due to the swampy area across the street.
And did you ask her about transporting the body?
I did. I asked her on a couple occasions if the body was in the car with them. And she would snap back, no, it wasn't in the car, it was behind them.
And did you talk with her about renting a trailer or U-Haul or some kind of...
Yeah, there was one time when she had to go out for a handwriting analysis of some kind, and I asked her if that had anything to do with who rented the U-Haul or the Ryder truck, and she said no, it was the letter that was half written in Grant, half written in Laura's. So we knew there was a U-Haul rented, and she says that's where Laura was as they drove.
in the U-Haul trailer?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she indicate to you, Amanda Hayes, any requests that she made of her sister, Karen Berry?
A request? I don't understand. She called her sister and said they were coming. She says she spoke to her sister about it. Her sister didn't want anything to do with this, but other than that,
Okay. Did she indicate to you that she was angry that her sister had called the police?
she said she was very angry at that.
With regard to being in North Carolina, did Amanda talk to you about the custody battle?
Yeah, she said that they were here and it was only supposed to be a 3-month stay in North Carolina because to get custody of Grant and Gentle, and that it was actually took longer than what it did.
Did she indicate any frustration with the length of the custody battle?
Yeah, they were frustrated. She said the courts were taking too long.
Did you indicated that Amanda Hayes treated the boys as if they were her own?
Absolutely.
Did you talk with her about Lily?
I talked to her about Lily, yes.
And do you recall any conversation about if things would have been different if Lily had been a boy instead of a girl?
Grant liked the boys, so she had said that if she had a boy, things wouldn't have happened how they happened.
And what did she say specifically about that?
That's what she said.
Okay. Did she indicate to you that Laura would be alive if Lily had been a boy?
I don't know that exact, no.
You indicated that what Ms. Hayes told you during the time that you were with her, some, 3 months?
Like 2.5 months. I
2.5
think.
months. that she loved her husband?
She did.
And did she tell you that on more than one occasion?
Yes, I mean, she would get pictures and she'd go through the pictures and you could just see how happy she was in the pictures. And, you know, she said that she loves her husband. She did.
Did she ever mention, when all this was happening, did she ever mention being threatened
No.
by her husband? Did she ever mention being afraid of Grant Hayes?
No, she had mentioned she was scared like 5 minutes after Laura was dead. And then as the days went by after Laura was dead, it was scary, but not once did she say she was ever afraid of Grant, no.
Did she ever mention him hitting her with a machete?
No.
You were in court at least during, on Wednesday, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you observe Amanda Hayes on the witness stand testifying?
Yes, ma'am.
And in terms of her demeanor and how she came across, how did that compare with the Amanda Hayes that you knew in custody for those 2.5 months in 2012?
It's not the same.
And what's the difference?
Amanda, if she was like that, she was very nice and very, I don't know how to explain it, but with the COs. With the people, she was not like, hey, how are you? You know, that kind of thing. She was very abrupt and to the point. It's almost like if she needed something from you, she was very nice and very pleasant, but other than that, she was just normal, as you can be in jail.
Well, you said that she, toward the COs, what's a CO?
Correctional officer.
During the time that you were around Amanda, did you see her get any preferential treatment by the COs?
Sure.
Like what?
I mean, they just go into everything.
Well, what did you see?
She would be brought out. She would be talked to separately than what we would. If we were all locked down, she wouldn't be necessarily locked down. They would visit her at her room and stuff like that. I mean, she had a good rapport with them.
You said that she used a certain tone or a certain approach with the COs that she didn't use
Sure.
with the other prisoners.
Sure, she would be all smiles and yes and just, oh, it's going to sound horrible, but sound innocent. Can I say it like that? Just very sweet, very, you know, like the other day when she was up here and you pushed her and pushed her and pushed her and she finally answered you, that was the Amanda I knew in jail.
And the sweet sound as that you described, that's not how she dealt with you.
That wasn't her normal everyday, no.
That was when she was trying to get something.
Yeah, I mean, she was sweet, she was nice, but, you know, you could see it go overboard.
You indicated that in July of 2012 that you were moved to a different facility, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point after that, did you were represented by a lawyer during this time period?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you tell your lawyer that you had some information about this case and about Amanda Hayes?
I did, and he told me that I should talk to Detective Falk because it made me very uncomfortable.
What was the reason that you told your lawyer that you had this information?
I had told my lawyer before I left the annex that she had told me these things, and it made me very uncomfortable and very uneasy in there. I myself was never in trouble before this, so as she had said before, that being in jail, there's all types of people. It's a diverse amount of people, so it's a scary place. It's scary, but when somebody tells you some things, you know, sometimes it just rolls off your back, but in this case with Amanda, I was blown away by it.
And so did you sit down with Detective Falk and
I did,
speak with him?
yes,
And he recorded that interview?
yes, ma'am.
And you are not currently in custody, is that right?
Correct, no, I'm done.
When was your case resolved?
November 8th of 2012.
And you've indicated earlier that you were in for embezzlement and false pretenses. Is that what you pled guilty to?
Correct.
And did you get an active sentence followed by a suspended sentence for those charges?
I had time served on the embezzlement and then probation for the other one, the obtaining property by false pretense.
And are you currently on probation and
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, could I have just a moment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
I do have some questions.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bearcat.
Hello.
You were arrested on September 27th, 2011. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
That was 2 months after approximately 2 months after Amanda and Grant had been arrested.
Okay, I don't know the specific on when they were arrested, but I know when I was.
Well, you were out there listening to the news media talk about their case almost every day of the week, weren't you?
No,
How often were you listening to the news media reports about their case?
not very often.
Do you recall talking to me?
I do recall you being at my house.
Do you recall telling me that you had followed their case on the news and that you knew
No.
about their case when you were arrested?
I didn't follow their case. I knew who she was vaguely when I got to jail, when I came to the annex.
Who else were you talking to during the time before you were arrested?
Who was I talking to
Who
before?
were you talking to about this case before you actually got arrested yourself?
Who was I talking
Were
to?
you talking to anybody?
No.
Were you
Why would
talking-
I?
Were you talking with your family?
No, I mean, this is not something that I would dwell on. I mean, it's in the news every day. People killing people, people robbing people, doing all that. Why would I dwell on it?
Were you reading newspaper articles about it?
I did not read the newspaper. I worked a lot.
Where were you working?
Lowe's Foods.
Now, you were charged with embezzlement from
Correct.
Lowe's Food, weren't you?
Correct?
Charged with stealing more than $100,000, weren't you?
I was charged with it, not proven with it.
You were also charged with 8 counts of obtaining property by false pretense, weren't you?
Correct?
Now, that means that you have been dishonest with someone at Lowe's, haven't you?
I've been dishonest. Yes, I got caught up in something I shouldn't have. Correct.
You got what?
Caught up in something I shouldn't have. Yes, correct.
You were stealing property from Lowe's and concealing what you had done, weren't you?
Correct?
Now, you were charged with that and incarcerated in the Wake County Detention Center, weren't you?
Correct.
While you were there,
Mhm.
did you meet a lady by the name of Sherry Robinson?
I met Sherry at the annex after she got there.
And you and Sherry were talking, were you not?
We all three talked, yes.
You learned that Sherry had been arrested numerous times in the past, didn't you?
Sherry had said she was arrested numerous times and she did federal time, yes.
And that the way she was able to get out of it was by turning someone else in the jail in. You recall that conversation?
Who said that?
With Sherry?
No, I do not.
Did Sherry tell you that she had been able to avoid long prison sentences by cooperating with the authorities?
When she had money laundering, yes. She did say that.
When what?
When she did the money laundering.
And did she tell you that in that case that she was looking at 10 years in prison
I don't know how many years she was looking at.
and that she had gotten out of it with 3 years in prison?
I don't know how many years she did in prison. I just knew her when she came there.
How many years were you looking at on your charges?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. You'd have to ask Jesse that,
Well, it would have been approximately about 10 years, wasn't it?
if that's what you say. I don't know.
You knew that if you could somehow gain an advantage, that you could avoid that 10-year prison sentence, didn't you?
No, I didn't use any of that to my advantage.
What prison sentence did you ultimately get?
I didn't get any prison sentence, never went to prison.
You dodged the whole thing, didn't you?
I spent 14 months in county jail.
And then you were released after you talked to Detective Falk, weren't you?
No, that's false. I had time served on my
You got-
embezzlement charge and got probation for the obtaining property by false pretense.
Was your daughter also charged in that case?
Yes,
And she didn't get any time either, did she?
she wasn't guilty.
What they do, dismiss her charges?
Correct?
They dismissed her charges entirely, and they gave you credit for
I did time served.
you gave you credit for the time served after you cooperated.
I didn't use any of this information to my advantage at all. I didn't gain anything by letting Detective Falk know any of this at all. It was never brought up when I got in front of that judge. None of this was ever brought up in front of that judge.
They just gave you the deal and
I
said,
was done.
good luck.
I was done.
Now, you were aware when you went to the Wake County Detention Center that if you were going to get any kind of break, that you were going to have to do something more substantial than just give the police something they already knew, didn't you?
I understand what you're saying.
You knew that if you told the police that Amanda had told you that this was an accident and that it was never intended to happen this way, that you weren't going to get much credit for that, were you?
Credit meaning, like use that to my advantage?
You wouldn't be able to use that to your advantage. That's not.
I
what
didn't
you
use
did,
it to my advantage. That's the whole thing. I didn't use any of this information for my advantage to cut my time at all.
You were aware that if you were going to get an advantage, that you had to embellish your story, didn't you?
I didn't embellish anything. I may have done wrong with what I did and served the time that I had to do, but I did not lie. I took what I did and I did my time for it.
Now, you and I talked on October 14th.
Whatever day you showed up at my house.
At your house, didn't you? When you left, when you got credit for time served, the state dropped the embezzlement, the Class C, what's called a Class C embezzlement, that carries 5 years in prison, didn't they?
This, through my lawyer, I imagine, yes.
That charge was dropped, wasn't it?
I was dropped from a C felony to an H or an I, yes, through
So you went
Jesse.
from 5 years to time served.
I don't know how many years it was. I just know it was a plea agreement. I was done. That's all I know.
Do you recall at some point that Amanda told you that she felt like there was a shark in the car with her?
Absolutely. She's referring to a Bo Lozoff book that we're all doing time, I believe the name of it is, where he's swimming and it's like in an ocean of sharks.
Do you recall that Sherry Robinson, to your friend in the jail, had been friends with Grant and Laura?
Sherry sat there and told us both that she knew Laura and Grant, yes.
And do you recall that Sherry Robinson shared with you information that she had about Grant?
Information she had about Grant, she told me that she knew Grant from her playing the saxophone and that she knew Frankie who was in the band with them. Yeah, she knew that. She told me that. She knew Laura and Grant. She knew Laura went to Florida to see Grant.
Did she give you information about Grant's case?
No,
Did you watch Grant's trial?
no, I was in jail. Oh, no, here, I did watch Grant's trial.
You
I
did
did,
watch it?
yes. I wasn't
So-
here, though.
So you have, as we sit here today, you have all the information that was published on the internet about Grant's trial?
I've seen Grant's trial off and on, yes.
And did you pay attention to the details from Grant's trial?
No.
Let me ask you this. You have it just a moment, Your Honor.
Right?
Tell you that Grant was after Amanda's money?
Yes.
Did Sherry tell you that Amanda was not his type?
Yes.
Amanda told you that Laura's death was an accident, didn't she?
Correct.
That it was never intended to happen.
Correct.
That it had happened when Laura tripped over the rug and bumped into her back.
She said Laura either tripped over the rug or hit her in the back of the neck, and she pointed to the back of the neck, yes. She says it was an accident, it wasn't supposed to happen like that.
And that that Grant had struggled with Laura and
Correct.
fell to the floor.
Correct.
And that Amanda had not been a part of that, had she?
No.
And that Grant was the one who could be calling for help, wasn't he?
That's what she said, that Grant was supposed to call the police.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all I've got.
All right, anything else in Red Rock?
Just a couple questions.
Okay.
Ms. Barracat, what Mr. Gaskins just asked you about Amanda telling you that Laura had either tripped or hit her in the back of the head. She didn't tell you the first time around. That was a detail that was added
That was the
second
detail
time.
the second time.
And he was asking you about Sherry Robinson.
Mhm.
Sherry Robinson also said some things in front of Amanda about Grant.
Correct.
And that made, about his unfaithfulness.
We were all sitting at the table, and Sherry had brought up how Grant did cocaine, how Grant went to Florida and told Amanda that, why do you think he wasn't answering his cell phone? Because Laura was there with him. She didn't like that.
And what was her reaction?
She was mad. She says he wouldn't do that. We wouldn't have been married had he still been doing that stuff. So she was totally, she said he stopped all that.
During the time that you knew Amanda and spoke with her about these subjects, did she ever show any remorse over Laura Ackerson's death?
I never saw Amanda show any kind of remorse, any kind of that. I've only seen Amanda cry twice the whole time I was there. Once when she got off the phone with, I believe it's her mother-in-law, and once when she got into an argument with one of the COs. That was it. She got frustrated.
And in terms of when she got off the phone, she was, at that point, was she frustrated because she wasn't getting money put in her account?
I don't know what the point of the conversation was, but she has told me that they stopped putting money on her account. Grant's parents, her niece used to put money on her account. She was very frustrated with that. You can understand being in jail is very frustrating. So when you're stuck behind all them walls and you can't get the help you need, it's frustrating. But she did. I saw her cry that time.
And your understanding was it was because she was frustrated because she didn't have money?
She was frustrated with, I guess it was Grant's mother, that they weren't putting money on their books. They weren't doing anything. I mean, I would sometimes get her stuff for canteen because she didn't have anything.
You indicated that you told Mr. Gadsden you didn't use any of this information to your advantage.
Not once.
And why was it that you felt it was important to bring this information out?
Because morally I thought it was wrong. I just don't see how somebody can do that to somebody if it was an accident and you're away from that one person that you say you're afraid of. She could have got help. She wouldn't have been sitting in there. She would have been with her babies if she would have just called 911.
She also told you that if it was an accident, that she couldn't be convicted of murder, didn't she?
Correct.
And she smiled.
Yes, she did.
That's all I have.
Every time you talked to her, she told you that it was an accident, didn't she?
She did. She
And that
was
it was
adamant that
never-
it was an accident.
And that no one had ever intended that Laura die.
No, she didn't say that. She said it was an accident. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. That's what she said to me. Whether the intent was there, I don't know. That's not what she said.
And after you talked to the police, you went from a potential 10-year prison sentence to credit for time served.
I didn't use none of that to my advantage again.
You got it, didn't you?
I got it because I had time served. None of this was brought up in my case, when they judged me. None of this.
So you didn't get the old wink and nod?
Did not.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else?
Did Amanda tell you that she hated Laura so much that she wanted to throw her from an airplane?
She did say that once, yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you, man. You may stand down. Will be further evidence, someone will have to stay.
Your Honor, I think we might have a brief voir dire that we, regarding these items of evidence that we might need to do outside the presence of the jury.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, obviously haven't heard it all. Keep an open mind. Don't form or express any opinion about the guilt or innocence defendant or remain in controversy. Be careful about your conduct. Apparently I'm going to have some technical ruling on my part. Don't concern yourself about that. That's my job. And keep an open mind. And let me have you step back to the jury room for just a couple minutes, and we'll call you back in as soon as we can. Thank you. Jury is absent. For what purpose are you asking for potential voir dire.
Your Honor, we have the originals of these 3 letters, and I found some case law this morning that I think would support the state's contention that even without the recipient testifying that these materials still are admissible based on circumstantial evidence. Additionally, even if the court decides that it's not, Ms. Patsy Hayes is here, and I need to provide the defense with a paragraph's worth of discovery from just talking to her.
Okay.
Additionally, she has a recording on her cell phone of defendant Grant Hayes that I don't know that I would ask any questions about. It's from July 14th, or circumstantially it shows July 14th, stating that he's not coming to Kinston. I don't know that I'd even intend to offer that, but I feel like the defense attorney should have the opportunity to hear that before she takes a witness stand. And I guess to start off with these letters, we have the original copies, and I would point the court to a couple of different cases. Specifically, the most recent case being State v. Young, which is 186 NC Act 343. And in that case, co-defendant received 3 letters from a defendant, and in that case, the co-defendant wasn't necessarily familiar with the defendant's handwriting, wasn't even sure that the defendant could write, and so the issue on appeal was whether the state failed to authenticate the letters, and the court went on to say that familiarity with one's handwriting is not the only method to authenticate a letter, going on to say that circumstantial evidence within the letters, such as testimony from this co-defendant who said that this person was referring to the recipient in a certain way, and other circumstantial evidence about the letter would show that it was written by the defendant. That's pretty much exactly what we have here. These letters are in their original envelope, stamped, mailed from the Wake County Jail, have Amanda Hayes as a return address, P.O. Box 2419. They carry the date on the envelope, and then within the actual letters, they're signed. One of them is signed "Love Amanda," and there's a tremendous amount of circumstantial evidence within the letter to show that Amanda Hayes was the writer of these letters. And I don't want to belabor the point, and if the court's made its ruling, I don't want to waste time because I know we're under a time crunch, but I would just say that circumstantially there can be no doubt as to who wrote these letters based on the handwriting consistency between them, the details that are carried within them, and the fact that some of them are signed by the defendant.
Refresh my recollection. Are they Amanda Hayes handwriting exemplars and evidence?
They are, Your Honor. There's State's Exhibit, I believe it's 505. There's 10 handwriting exemplars located in that State's Exhibit.
Could I see that?
Yes. Coverage card. three letters.
Yes, sir. All right. I'm looking at what's been handed to me by Mrs. Ellinger. It was been handed it by the clerk as Mark States Exhibit 50. Is it 5 or 3? 505. Which is described as Amanda Hayes, 10 samples of letter, handwriting exemplars that are in evidence. Do your notes show that they've been offered and received?
Yes.
Okay.
Or they're admitted through Ms. Dent.
Yes. I recall there's an old case called State versus LeDuc, in which the appellate court said if you have a known writing and a question writing, that it does not require testimony of an expert witness before the jury can consider the known writing and the question writing to determine whether or not the author of the known writing also wrote the question documents. And I don't think that rule has changed. So the question is whether or not these question documents have a sufficient degree of authenticity that they would be admissible on the face of the documents without a further showing. It would appear that there are 3 letters in envelopes, all of which are addressed to either 2 of them for Patsy Hayes and then 1 to Mr. and Mrs. Hayes in Kinston. They all bear a return address of Amanda Hayes with 2 of them show a number, 343271, 3301 Hammond Road, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603, which is the Wake County jail facility. They all show they're all stamped mail from Wake County Jail. And the envelopes bear postmark dates September 26, 2011, 2012, February the 7th, 2012, and there's another 2012 date I can't quite make out. Just a casual review of the handwriting in the letters appears to be quite similar to the handwriting exemplars of Amanda Hayes. They're signed Amanda. One of them says, "To Grant, hello, my love." Another is signed, Love Amanda. And the other, also Love Amanda. All right. Defendant want to be heard?
Your Honor, in this particular case, the state has advised that they have Patsy Hayes available to call as a witness in this case, and it's our position that if they intend to present these letters to the jury as some evidence in rebuttal in their case, then they should be required to establish the proper chain of custody, and also to allow us to confront and cross-examine Ms. Hayes, who has provided those letters today, so that the jury has a fair context of where Ms. Hayes' position was at the time she was receiving these letters. Because when Ms. Hayes is writing Patsy Hayes and Grant Jr., who is Grant III's father, have complete custody and guardianship of Amanda's infant daughter, whom she hasn't seen since she left the child with them at 5 weeks old. And her only communication and contact or information connection in any way to that infant child is through Patsy Hayes. And I believe that it would have some meaning to the jury that these letters are an effort to maintain that communication and that reassurance with Ms. Hayes that Ms. Hayes is not having to choose sides between Grant, her son, and Amanda, and that they're keeping that so that Amanda can keep that conduit of information flowing about her young daughter. And in fact, in each of those letters, the subject of that Amanda directs directly to Ms. Hayes, the subject of send pictures, thank you for the pictures, I love your son, send pictures of the children, is a constant thing. And were you to admit the letters without allowing us the opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Hayes regarding those communications, I believe it would be prejudicial to Ms. Hayes.
Unfairly prejudicial.
Unfairly prejudicial.
Well, I would agree with you if the writer was not here to be cross-examined by you, but the writer appears to be your client. So, the only real question for Ms. Hayes that the state would have to present through her would be, did she receive these letters? And are they authentic? And the state's not required to do that if they can authenticate them in some other way. It does not preclude you from calling Ms. Hayes if you choose in rebuttal to ask her about those circumstances in which she received the letters, or to call your own client to explain it. And I don't preclude either. I do not preclude either. But I do believe that there is a sufficient showing of authenticity as to these documents that they will, in view of the fact that there are handwriting exemplars in evidence of Amanda Hayes, that these purport to be letters written by, on their face at least, written by Amanda Hayes from the jail. They're marked mail from the jail, and they're signed Amanda. And I believe the jury can determine whether or not they were in fact written by her, and if they were, whether or not they have any probative value. And as such, the requirement of authenticity appears to be satisfied. You want to mark these individually, and tell me how they're marked, please? You know.
26th of 2011, I'm marking as State's Exhibit 590. Letter from what appears to be January 17th of 2012, I'm marking as State's Exhibit 591. And the letter from what appears to be February 7th of 2012, I'm marking as State's Exhibit 592.
All right. Do you move the admission?
I'm sorry?
Do you move the admission?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Over the defendant's objection, the court finds that based upon the face of the documents as presented, they are sufficiently self-authenticating to permit the jury to consider them to the extent that they have any probative value. I do find that any probative value outweighs any potential prejudicial effect, since it would appear from all of the information before the court that the jury could infer that the writer of the letters is the defendant. How do you intend to publish?
Through Detective Falk and through the projector. And Your Honor, the only thing, I feel like I should need to provide the defendant with discovery, because I did talk with Miss Patsy Hayes for a minute or two.
Okay.
So I want to provide them with that. And then there's this message on her voicemail that I tried to summarize, but I was distracted as I was listening to it. So I would just prefer if one of the defense attorneys could hear it as well, just so they're aware of.
How long is it?
It's 30 seconds or something.
Do you intend to offer it?
No.
Okay.
It's on her phone, though, which is another.
What's the substance of it?
Pretty much, it's from Grant Hayes. It appears to be from that week of July 13th, where he's calling them and stating that he doesn't have money for a storage facility, that he intends to move to Kinston the next weekend, and he needs to put some stuff in storage. And he's talking about how Grant, Amanda, and Lily will move in over there. And honestly, I'd like to listen to it one more time, so before making a decision on
All right.
whether we're going to offer it or not.
We would ask, since the state has indicated they don't intend to call Patsy Hayes while we're contemplating our SOR rebuttal, if they would not.
Is she under subpoena?
I believe she was originally subpoenaed, but we're not going to.
Do not release her.
Back to Kinston.
Just-
Do not release her
Yeah.
until everybody decides whether or not they want to call her. All right. How much time you need?
I think 10 minutes would be sufficient.
All right. Do you anticipate any other evidence? All right. What time did jury go out, Linda, do you know? I don't know. Do you know, Amy? How long has jury been out? Sorry?
About 3:10.
3:10, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay. Well, let's leave them back there. Let's take about 10 minutes, and I don't want to bring them back out, send them back out. So we'll be in recess for about 10 minutes. Leave the jury in the jury room. Thank you.